Out of 9,900 attackers on Earth, only 17 made it out alive. Earth had never seen a sky like this. On a clear morning when the sun usually painted cities golden, dark shapes appeared instead. They moved silently, enormous and strange, casting long shadows over every continent. People stared, pointing their cameras and phones, unsure whether to panic or to marvel. In the first moments, no one knew what they were. Scientists called them attackers, but no one really understood their nature. They came in numbers that were impossible to count. Thousands, tens of thousands. Reports claimed 9,900 ships had entered Earth's atmosphere. Their movements were coordinated, precise, and almost alive. From New York to Tokyo, to the deserts of Africa and the frozen plains of Siberia, the world was under the same sky. People ran for shelter, governments activated emergency plans, and soldiers scrambled to the borders of cities. Yet, despite all the preparation, humanity was unprepared. Nothing in history could have prepared them for this moment. In the chaos, a small team in Geneva observed the ships through telescopes and satellites. Dr. Amina Farouk, a physicist with sharp eyes and sharper mind, studied the attackers. "They are not like anything we know," she said to her team, voice calm but tense. "Their energy signatures, it's not just technology, it's something else, something alive maybe." Her assistant, a young engineer named Ravi, looked at her, fear in his eyes. "Alive? You mean these ships are creatures?" "Not exactly," she replied, "but they think, they react. And we cannot outgun them with normal weapons. Not yet." Meanwhile, on the ground, ordinary people face the reality of survival. In the streets of Paris, a schoolteacher named Elise led her students into the basement of their building. Parents, neighbors, and even strangers huddled together. "Stay calm," she whispered. "We will get through this, we have to." In the skies above, the attackers began their work. But there was a strange rule to their destruction. They targeted military bases first, scanning cities, but leaving certain areas untouched. Scientists would later speculate that the attackers were studying humans, trying to understand the species before making further moves. As night fell on the first day, Earth was changed forever. Satellites flickered and fell from orbit, power grids failed, and communication lines were disrupted. People clung to what little information they could find. Yet, amid the fear, there were sparks of courage. Humans helped each other through blocked streets, collapsed buildings, and fires. In the ruins of Los Angeles, a small team of survivors gathered in a subway station. Among them was Lieutenant Marcus Hale, a retired pilot who had spent years teaching young cadets about strategy. "We can't fight them head-on," he said, "but we don't have to. We have our minds, that's our weapon." Marcus' team wasn't large, just 7 people, each with a skill that mattered. One could hack into computers, another was an engineer, and yet another was an expert in drones. They pooled their knowledge to find ways to observe the attackers, to study their weaknesses. Far away, Dr. Farouk worked with a similar mindset. She discovered that the attackers seemed to have a central ship controlling smaller vessels. "If we can reach that ship, maybe we can understand them, or even stop them," she said. The survivors, both in cities and in remote areas, soon realized that speed and creativity mattered more than strength. With conventional weapons useless, humans began to improvise. They used underground tunnels to move without being seen. They created decoys and traps from ordinary objects. Every small success gave hope. On the third day, something unexpected happened. A young engineer named Ravi managed to hack a small alien probe. The machine, designed to scan and gather information, became a source of insight. It showed patterns in the attackers' movements and behaviors. Dr. Farouk and her team pored over the data. "They're organized," she explained, "but there's logic we can understand. If we think faster than them, we might survive." By the end of the first week, humanity was on the defensive but not defeated. In some areas, cities were destroyed. In others, humans managed to hold small, safe zones. News from these zones spread hope like wildfire. Stories of clever escapes, of human resilience, became as important as the news of destruction. In one forest in Canada, another group of survivors observed the sky with binoculars. Among them was Elena, a young strategist who had studied patterns in nature and movement. She noticed that the attackers moved in predictable ways, almost as if they followed invisible rules. She shared her observation with her group. "We can use this," she said. "If we know their rules, we can plan ahead. We can survive." Across the globe, humanity's brightest minds worked with those who could take risks and act. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens became a single force. The attackers had technology, but humans had ingenuity, creativity, and courage. By the 10th day, the attackers had destroyed much, but Earth had not surrendered. Small victories gave the survivors new strategies. In New York, Marcus and his team managed to disable a minor alien outpost using a combination of drones and improvised signals. It was not a complete victory, but it showed that humans could fight back in clever ways. In Geneva, Dr. Farouk discovered something remarkable. The attackers reacted to certain sound frequencies in ways that were predictable. "It's a vulnerability," she told her team. "Not a weapon, not yet, but a clue." Meanwhile, in underground shelters around the world, humans shared knowledge quickly. Books, digital archives, and even memory were used to pass on strategies. Survival became a global effort, and every small win strengthened humanity's resolve. The first part of the invasion ended not with a battle, but with a revelation. Humans were not helpless. Even against 9,900 attackers, the ingenuity, courage, and teamwork of Earth's survivors were forming a new hope. On the horizon, the central alien ship glowed faintly, observing. It had destroyed much, but it had not broken humanity. And the 17 people who would later survive the invasion began to emerge, united by intelligence, skill, and determination. Their journey had just begun, and the world watched silently, waiting for the next move. The world had changed. Cities lay in ruins, communication lines were broken, and the sky remained crowded with the alien ships that had arrived without warning. But humans were not gone. Far from it. In the shadows, in hidden shelters, and in the forests and mountains, small groups of survivors were planning, learning, and preparing. Among them were the 17 who would later become known as the last hope of humanity. They were not soldiers alone. They were engineers, scientists, strategists, and ordinary citizens with extraordinary courage. They had seen the destruction, yet they refused to be defeated. In a forest near the Canadian Rockies, Elena, the strategist, gathered her group around a makeshift map drawn in the dirt. "We've watched their patterns," she said. "They move in cycles, daytime attacks, nighttime regrouping. They have sensors, yes, but we've found blind spots." Marcus, the retired pilot, nodded. "We need to use those blind spots, not to fight them directly, they are too strong, but to move, observe, and gather information. Every piece of knowledge counts." The group worked like a single organism. One person monitored drones they had scavenged from destroyed cities. Another, Ravi, the young engineer, improvised a small device that could interfere with the alien sensors. Even without heavy weapons, they were finding ways to level the playing field. Meanwhile, Dr. Amina Farouk was coordinating with other survivors through hidden communication channels. She had begun to understand the aliens' behavior in a new way. They were highly organized, yes, but also predictable when exposed to certain stimuli. Sounds, light patterns, and small environmental changes could make them hesitate. "This is not a weakness we can exploit with guns," she told her team. "But it is a doorway. If we can reach the central ship, we can learn more, maybe even turn their technology against them." The survivors knew the central ship was the key. From orbit, it commanded the smaller vessels, coordinating attacks across continents. Getting to it was no small feat. It required skill, patience, and courage beyond ordinary limits. On the ground, life continued despite the danger. People shared food and shelter, taught each other survival skills, and helped those injured by falling debris or panic. The attackers did not seem to understand this human solidarity. They attacked, yes, but they could not break the bonds that were forming among the living. One night in the mountains, the 17 gathered around a small fire. Marcus spoke first. "We've survived the first wave because we thought, because we observed, because we adapted. Now it's time to take the next step. We need to move closer to the central ship." Alina spread out a detailed map. "There are supply points we can use. Old research stations, abandoned towns, underground bunkers. If we move carefully, we can stay hidden, gather materials, and reach orbit or at least the launch sites they are watching." The journey was dangerous. Every movement carried the risk of detection. Yet the survivors were careful, creative, and coordinated. They built camouflage, moved under cover of darkness, and used the terrain to hide from the alien sensors. Even when they encountered small patrols of attackers, they found ways to evade them without confrontation. In Europe, another subgroup of survivors worked on a different problem: communication. With the world's networks mostly destroyed, information was scattered. Yet the humans used old satellites, shortwave radios, and even coded signals to share findings. Knowledge became a weapon, and every breakthrough strengthened the resistance. By the second week, the 17 had learned to predict the attackers' movements almost perfectly. They discovered that the aliens relied heavily on patterns. They scanned methodically but rarely adapted quickly to unexpected events. This was the humans' advantage. One morning, Ravi excitedly reported, "I think I can hack a probe again. If I can control it, we can gather information without being detected." Marcus grinned. "Do it, but stay careful. One mistake and we're gone." Using makeshift tools and scavenged parts, Ravi successfully controlled the probe. It flew silently through the ruins of a city, recording movements and transmitting data back to the team. Through this, they learned the timing of patrols, the locations of supply depots, and even glimpsed the central ship from orbit. But intelligence was only part of the battle. Survival meant food, water, and rest, all in places where every step could be dangerous. The group shared duties, alternating between scouting, building shelters, and protecting each other from hazards like crumbling buildings or sudden storms. As days passed, tensions sometimes flared. Fear and fatigue made arguments inevitable, but Alina reminded them of the bigger picture. "We are more than individuals," she said. "We are humanity in action. Every choice we make, every step we take carries the hope of millions." Then a breakthrough arrived. Dr. Farouk discovered that the central ship was vulnerable to a sequence of precise signals. If executed correctly, it could temporarily disable the smaller vessels, giving humans a chance to act. But it required coordination, timing, and absolute precision. "This is it," she said. "This is our chance to strike, not with violence but with brains, with human creativity." The 17 prepared carefully. They gathered materials, studied patterns, and rehearsed their movements. Even small mistakes could mean failure, yet their teamwork and trust in one another grew stronger every day. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Marcus looked at his team. "We are the last line, yes, but we are also the first hope. We are humans and we do not give up." The next morning they began their journey toward the launch sites near the coast. They moved in silence, using every trick they had learned. The alien ships patrolled the skies above, but humans had learned to read their signals, to anticipate their actions, and to avoid direct confrontation. Along the way, they discovered other survivors. Some joined them temporarily, others shared knowledge and resources before moving on. Humanity, despite the odds, was showing a remarkable ability to adapt and cooperate. One night near a quiet river, the team rested. Alina pointed to the sky where the central ship glowed faintly among the clouds. "It's waiting for us," she said softly. "Not in anger, not in fear, but in calculation. They are studying us and they do not yet know what we can do." Marcus nodded. "Then let's show them. Let's prove what humans can do, not by fighting but by thinking, by surviving, by turning every disadvantage into an advantage." The journey was far from over. The coast, the launch sites, and ultimately the central ship awaited them. Every day brought new challenges: storms, tricky terrain, and the constant presence of alien patrols. Yet the 17 moved forward, each step guided by courage, intelligence, and determination. By the end of Part 2, the survivors had reached the outskirts of the launch facilities. They had evaded detection, gathered intelligence, and understood more about the attackers than anyone else on Earth. They were tired, hungry, and tested beyond measure, but also stronger, wiser, and united. From the sky, the central ship watched. The aliens had underestimated the humans' capacity for planning, adaptation, and teamwork. And for the first time, the balance of power began to shift, not through brute strength, but through the ingenuity and resilience of Earth's last defenders. The stage was set for the next phase, a daring plan to reach the central ship itself. And the 17 survivors, carrying the hopes of an entire species, prepared to face the greatest challenge of their lives. Humanity had survived the first wave. Against impossible odds, they had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. The final confrontation was coming, but for now, hope endured. The air was tense as the 17 survivors stood at the edge of the launch site. The facility, once a hub of human innovation, now lay abandoned and partially destroyed, a silent reminder of how much the world had changed. Above, the central alien ship floated like a giant sentinel, its presence both terrifying and fascinating. For weeks, the group had moved through forests, mountains, and ruins, learning, adapting, and planning. They had seen the power of the attackers firsthand, and had discovered that brute force would not win the day. Instead, their strength was in their minds, their unity, and their courage. Alina studied the site, tracing possible paths with a finger. "We can't storm in," she said. "They'll detect us immediately. We have to be clever, use misdirection, stealth, and timing." "That's how humans survive," Marcus nodded, checking the makeshift devices Ravi had assembled. "And once we're inside, we use what we've learned. Every pattern, every signal, every weakness we've studied will guide us. We're not just surviving anymore, we're acting." Dr. Amina Farouk, standing nearby with a portable computer, displayed a holographic map of the central ship and its surrounding patrols. "I've analyzed the data from the last probe," she explained. "The central ship is highly advanced, yes, but it relies on logic and predictable sequences. If we can trigger a controlled disruption, it will give us a small window to act." Ravi, the young engineer, tightened his grip on his tools. "That's our chance. If we can send the right signals just long enough, we can confuse the smaller ships and create a path to the ship's entry point." Alina took a deep breath. "Then let's move, step by step. We've come this far. Now we finish what we started." The survivors split into small teams to approach the launch site without attracting attention. They moved under cover of darkness, using shadows and terrain for protection. Every movement was calculated, every action measured. Even a small mistake could reveal their position. As they approached the site, the first challenge appeared, a patrol of smaller alien drones moving in a perfect circle around the facility. Marcus raised a hand, signaling the group to stop. "Remember what we learned," he whispered. "They follow patterns. They react to changes, but slowly. We can use that." Ravi activated his device, sending a series of signals that mimicked environmental interference. The drones paused, their lights flickering as if confused. Using this moment, the team moved quickly and silently, slipping past the patrol without being detected. Inside the facility, The survivors navigated the ruins with caution. Broken machines and scattered papers told stories of a world interrupted, of human achievement halted by an unforeseen threat. Yet, in this desolation, the 17 found determination. Every step forward was a testament to human resilience. Dr. Farouk guided them toward a control room that could access long-range communications and perhaps influence the central ship. "This is it," she said. "From here, we can send the signals that might disrupt their network, even temporarily. It's not about destruction, it's about outsmarting them." As Ravi prepared the devices, Alina coordinated the team. "Position yourselves to cover each other," she instructed. "If anything goes wrong, we retreat and try again, but we succeed together or not at all." With a final nod from Marcus, Ravi activated the first sequence. The lights in the control room dimmed and flickered. Outside, the smaller alien ships reacted unpredictably, some hovering in place, others moving erratically. The window had opened. The survivors moved quickly, reaching the point that Dr. Farouk had identified as a potential entry to the central ship. Using makeshift climbing gear and careful timing, they ascended, avoiding sensors and surveillance. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the alien operation. Once inside the central ship, the scale of the technology amazed them. Machines and controls unlike anything on Earth surrounded them. Panels displayed patterns of light, data streams, and signals. And in the center, a vast command interface pulsed with quiet energy. Dr. Farouk stepped forward. "We are here to observe and influence, not to fight. We have one chance to send a precise sequence that will temporarily disable the smaller ships. It must be exact." Alina guided the others. "Watch for changes, listen for feedback. Every reaction tells us more. Humans have learned to read patterns, now we use that skill." Ravi's fingers moved quickly over the controls. Each signal was sent, each calculation verified. And then slowly the alien network responded. Systems that had seemed unbreakable flickered and paused. Drones hovered, confused, and for the first time humans had the upper hand, not by strength, but by intelligence. Outside on Earth, the small disruptions created openings. Human teams around the globe, inspired by the 17, took advantage of these gaps to gather supplies, rescue others, and disable minor alien operations. Humanity was acting as one organism, coordinated through clever observation and timing. Back in the central ship, the 17 pushed further. They moved with care, knowing that the window would not last forever. Marcus led the way, Alina calculated the safest paths, Ravi maintained the signal disruption, and Dr. Farouk monitored the network. Every action, every choice was critical. At the heart of the ship, they found a chamber where the command interface seemed almost alive. Lights pulsed in rhythm, data flowed in streams, and patterns moved like a living system. For a moment the survivors paused, awed by the complexity. "This is it," Dr. Farouk whispered. "We now have enough control to guide them, to show them that humans are not predictable, not weak, not to be underestimated." Alina nodded. "Then we act together." Using the knowledge they had gathered, the 17 sent a series of calculated signals, each designed to exploit the aliens' reliance on patterns. The smaller ships outside faltered, misinterpreting orders, hesitating, and eventually retreating slightly from key positions. Earth defenders, using this distraction, secured safe zones and assisted stranded survivors. For hours, the survivors worked tirelessly, sending sequences, monitoring reactions, and adjusting in real time. Their combined intelligence and ingenuity created a system that even the alien network struggled to understand. And through their coordinated effort, the balance began to shift. Finally, the central ship paused. Its movement slowed, as if the aliens were studying the humans who had outsmarted them. The 17 watched closely, understanding that this was not just a victory of technology. It was a victory of human spirit, creativity, and collaboration. As the disruption continued, the survivors began to withdraw, careful not to leave themselves vulnerable. They had succeeded in their primary goal, creating a window for humanity to reclaim control over its world. Outside, Earth's skies cleared slightly. Humans emerged from hiding, rebuilt communication lines, and coordinated with one another. Though much work remained, hope had returned. The alien ships, once overwhelming and unstoppable, were now cautious, no longer certain of victory. The 17, battered but triumphant, returned to the surface. They had survived impossible odds, outsmarted a far superior force, and proven that humans could endure. Their actions inspired the planet. Humanity was not defeated. Humanity was clever, adaptable, and united. In the following days, the survivors were celebrated quietly by those who had witnessed their courage. They shared knowledge, trained new teams, and helped rebuild the world. And though the alien presence remained, Earth was no longer defenseless. Dr. Farouk looked up at the sky where the central ship lingered. "They have learned about us," she said. "But more importantly, we have learned about ourselves. Intelligence, courage, and cooperation, these are our greatest weapons." Marcus smiled. "And we proved that against 9,900 attackers, humans could endure, not by brute force but by thinking, adapting, and never giving up." Alina nodded. "This is only the beginning. We have survived, and now humanity will thrive." The 17 survivors stood together, gazing at the horizon. The sky was still filled with alien ships, but fear had been replaced with determination. They had faced impossible odds, and through their skill, courage, and unity, they had changed the course of history. Earth was scarred but alive, and humanity, resilient as ever, was ready to face whatever challenges came next. In the end, it was not weapons, size, or numbers that saved the planet. It was the enduring spirit of humans, proving that even against overwhelming odds, intelligence, cooperation, and courage could prevail. The story of the 17 survivors would be remembered for generations, a testament to humanity's ingenuity, resilience, and unbreakable will.